The sky is falling and all hell is about to break loose. No, not necessarily. And I don't want this video to come across that way because I will say I've been investing in real estate. Well, my first fix and flip was in 2009 and then full-time investor since 2012. So 12 years full-time, 2009. So many years. And I've always watched lots of different podcasts and YouTubes. And don't get me wrong, my YouTube channel has a lot of clickbaity type titles because that's ultimately what the algorithm likes. They like to see click-through rate and thumbnails, all that good stuff. So I play by the rules, but ultimately I hope to give valuable information that comes from a point of my perspective. You know, my Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel absolutely talks about how wonderful Northern Colorado is. But I also always suggest that, hey, I'm born and raised here, been here for 36 years. So one of the things that I lack is perspective. And I also discuss that I'm a licensed real estate agent. So, you know, I make money when people buy and sell homes. I'm an investor. So when people are renting houses and paying their rent, that's a good thing for me. So I come from that perspective as well and that bias. But hopefully I can present a relatively neutral with my background perspective, all of that good stuff, being from Fort Collins in real estate. And so when I'm presenting this information, it comes across that way because I will say, I've been watching a channel that I think actually has great information and for the last 4 or 5 years. Well, really, excuse me, I'm still fighting a cough. But really since about the start or beginning of COVID and the entire time for the last 4.5 years, this individual has suggested that the real estate market is crashing. It's a bad investment and get out while the getting's good. Do not invest. Wait till price is correct. Well, I can tell you that if you did that, specifically in Fort Collins, you could have nearly missed out on not just tens of thousands of dollars of potential appreciation of your house, but hundreds of thousands of dollars if you bought in 2020 and is now 2024. So I do not want to come across that way, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at median sales price, inventory, days on market, closed sales, price reductions, interest rates, some things that I would consider if I was buying or selling and what the market is bearing. My name is Patrick Sukup. This is a live real estate market update. We come to you on the first Tuesday of every month to talk to you about what the real estate market is doing in Northern Colorado based off of the prior 30 days. So June 1st to June 30th. And without any further delay, I'm going to share my screen and talk to me about at the end of this video or throughout it, if you like this format. I'm going to try to go more heavy on the visuals rather than seeing my, bald dome that's kind of goofy looking. So let's get rocking and rolling. All right, median sales price actually dipped a little bit in June, 642,500, down 1.5% versus 1 year ago. But one of the things that you're going to see is relatively this flatlining since really the middle of 2022. Now we're up 2.8% versus 1 year ago on a rolling 12-month average. But we've been flat for really pretty much the last 18 months. Now, a reversion to the mean is what a client suggested the term is, that we have this kind of hockey stick approach or hockey stick of increase of sales price, where historically we see about a 3.5% increase, or sorry, about a 5.5% appreciation. So maybe until it gets back to that point, but if interest rates come down, lots of X factors for that. But the rolling 12-month average has remained relatively flat, not seeing our annual 5.5% appreciation that we're used to seeing since the 1970s. Inventory is definitely something that we're going to talk about. That's kind of the hot topic. That's been our issue over the last 4 years. We have had record low inventories. I mean, look at the beginning of 2022 and 2021. We just had no inventory. They talk about supply in months. I don't have the graph on there, but we're at 2.5 months of supply. A balanced real estate market is, and I'm going to do this picture in picture so you guys can hopefully see a little bit, but a balanced real estate market is 6 months. But hey, I'll take it. 325 homes, up 19% versus this time last year. And we're expecting to see inventory increase really until middle of July, August type deal. And then it starts to level out, start to decrease September, October as we enter into our kind of fall and winter months. But inventory is where we are going to start talking about price reductions, the difference between list price and final sales price, if it's above or below, and opportunities as buyers in Fort Collins. We did also break down a little bit about price points here, active homes for sale. So the entry point for $400,000 to $600,000. Crazy to say that, but it is what it is. At least in Fort Collins, the entry point, $400,000 to $600,000, inventory up 41%, suggesting that people are having a hard time making that, jump into home ownership. There is a big delta between owning and renting. But right now, what we're really starting to see isn't necessarily that purchase prices of homes are going down per se. They're relatively remaining flat, but rental rates are increasing. $600,000 to $800,000 homes. What that's saying is, actually inventory is a little bit down. People are able to parlay that house, sell it, maybe not necessarily be super excited about losing that interest rate, but get into that next house, that $600,000, $800,000 price point. So still a very attractive price point for buyers right now in Fort Collins. $800,000 to $1 million, inventory is down 6.6%. And then 1 million and above homes up 61.8%. Now, it's interesting looking at like 2019, right? Versus 2020, 2021. Now, our purchase prices are $1 million homes. In 2018, when I started really doing very well in brokerage, there was only about 20 houses a year in Fort Collins selling for more than $1 million. And now it's quite a bit more than that. So this just by the reality of our market appreciating and increasing, or as one individual on the channel suggested, inflating over the last 5 years, we're going to get more sales and inventory is going to increase. But this is also suggesting that, hey, $1 million homes, financing, that's a big number. For me, for example, I was looking at a house in Fort Collins. We were going to buy it, or looking at it, not at all really considering to buy. We actually just did a massive renovation at our house a year or so ago. So we're here for at least a good while. But the sale of our house would be about $800,000 to $850,000. Purchase price of that one would be about 1.1, and my mortgage would increase, twofold. So that's not super sexy for me. And I could see how the $1 million price point, is increasing as far as inventory based off of just market increasing in prices, as well as the increase, the impact of interest rates. All righty, days on market, kind of not necessarily a nothing burger, but right now we're in like the heat of the season. And as you could see here, we were down way below 30 days for forever. We're actually ticking back up, and we're still in like the spring, summer selling season. So days on market should actually be relatively flat or kind of bottoming out, not necessarily ticking back up. So we are seeing a little bit of an increase, about 5.4% versus last year, suggesting that homes are sitting on the market 7 to 10 days prior to going under contract and then subsequently selling. New listings. This, again, we're down 11.1%. We're having this divergence between closed sales and new listings. Our new listings are coming on at a lesser rate than they have been, down 11%, but not nearly as much as demand has fallen. So there is this increase in inventory. Demand has not cut off by any means, but definitely has decreased. I talked to a lot of clients about how the market right now is, there are very discerning buyers, very capable and able buyers, but are very discerning. If that house is not priced right, in a good location, whether that be in the neighborhood or in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, whatever, and relatively turnkey or a combination of those three, it's going to sit, and buyers are going to look at that and say, hey, you know what? You're off. It's just not priced right. So we're going to wait, and you're going to have to do a price reduction. and we are very, very, very able to buy, but we don't have to, and we're not going to rush to it. So I would say there's discerning buyers, but there is this delta between new listings, fewer listings than there fewer buyers and more fewer buyers. Sorry, I can't think of the right terminology right now. So than sellers. So that's where we're getting an increase in inventory. Again, right here, the way that I'm seeing this is the reason there's a smaller increase, a smaller decrease in new listings for 400 to 600,000 because it's hard for them to financially afford to sell maybe that 3% mortgage rate, go get a 6% mortgage rate at that 600 to 800,000. But definitely not nearly as much of an impact as 600 to 800,000 and 800,000 to $1 million. They're like, you know what? We can go ahead and sell our current house and move into the next one. But that interest rate is definitely having an impact. And the new listings for $1 million, they probably have so much equity and to parlay it, and they might actually be downsizing. They might be moving horizontal. And so that's why you don't see as big of an impact on new listings for the $1 million because they already have that $1 million asset. They have a lot of equity in it. Whereas these 600 to 800,000, 600,000 to $1 million buyers, substantial decreases in new listings because this 800,000 to 1 million is kind of like me. It's a move up opportunity. And that would mean I would have to sell my house and then go buy. But man, I'm at a 2.99% interest rate, would have to go buy at 6.75%. So no, I'm not going to do that right now, especially after having just done a big renovation. So that's where these price points, because it's usually a move up home, so they are immediately getting impacted by interest rates. Purchase prices, interest rates equals affordability, which is kind of the name of the game on this market update. All right, now like kind of get into some different types of information. 33% of new listings between June 1st and June 30th went under contract, meaning 67% are still on the market. That days on market of 39 days, suggesting that most homes are sitting on the market for 10 days and then going under contract rather than going under contract that first weekend. But we're going to get into a little bit more information as well here shortly. I want to check to see if there's any comments or anything like that. Nope. All right. 156 homes sold. Now, here's what I wanted to look at. How many homes sold above list price, at list price, and under list price? So 36.7%, nearly 37% sold under list price with an average of 2.9% below the list price. 52 homes or 32.9% sold at list price, and about 29% sold above list price. Now, there are, like I said, those discerning buyers that I was talking about, they're very capable, very able. And when they see that house that they want, they can get after it. They can offer above list price. We had some phenomenal clients that were offering on a house in my neighborhood, and there ended up being 7 offers on this house. And it was the highest difference between list price to sales price over the last 30 days of any home in Fort Collins. And so we just happened to go against a freaking outlier buzzsaw of a property. Very depressing, very sad. I think actually on the last market update, I was talking to a friend, client and now friend about that. And he asked if I'd gotten it. And I was like, what house are you talking about? Oh, shoot, yes. No, we did not get that. We were in fourth place. So when that time comes, and if there is a strong property priced well, ready to move, it's possible that there's going to go with multiple offers and above list price. But generally, only about 2.7% above list price if it goes under above list price, which I'm going to get into a little bit more information here. Actually, I'm going to go down a little bit further and back up. Now, the true number is actually for properties that sold under their original, I should probably write that, original list price, is actually closer to 47.4%, meaning that 47.4% of homes either had a price reduction and then sold at list price, or had a sales price that was under their final list price, which then suggests that only 24.3% sold at their list price with no price reductions, and 28% sold above list price. So there's actually a fair amount of activity. Nearly half of the homes are either having a price reduction or selling under list price. Pretty interesting. Now, price reductions of the homes sold, 27.67% had at least one price reduction. It is super interesting to look at all the price reductions and the strategies of listing agents and how they do that and when they do that. But you can bet that basically 3 out of 10 homes are going to have a price reduction in the current real estate market in Fort Collins. Moving right along, again, this entry level of home is where we're seeing the biggest impact on closed sales, nearly down 18% versus 1 year ago. And these move-up homes are also seeing the impact. This could be where the $400,000 to $600,000 they're selling their house, they're able to go into a $600,000, $800,000 house. Maybe their incomes are far above what they needed to. The mortgage still makes sense, and it's a big enough jump. We talk to a lot of our clients that there is this pretty decent jump between a $600,000 house in Fort Collins and an $800,000 house in Fort Collins. So it is a good step up in a home as far as type of home, quality, all of that good stuff. So that's my theory as to why this has the lowest amount of change versus 1 year ago. Homes under contract, again, suggesting strictly demand. This is a direct correlation to demand, down 9.9% versus 1 year ago. So, nothing crazy, but does suggest demand is softening quite a bit, even compared to 1 year ago, where prices were still relatively the same, only 2.2% higher, 2.8% higher than 1 year ago. And interest rates, as we will see, were actually the same. So I think there's some buyer fatigue saying, you know what? All right, we're going to just be patient, find the right houses, and make moves at that time. Speaking of which, interest rates, 6.9%, 30-year fixed. Now, this is a kind of a retail lender. Your cross countries, your Mr. Coopers, not your mortgage brokers per se. You can usually find about 0.5% better than that if you use a mortgage broker. But that being said, and some banks and credit unions, don't count those out. But this year, 6.9% for a 30-year fixed versus 1 year ago, which was roughly around 6.6%, 6.7% 1 year ago. So similar interest rates. I mean, a little bit higher this year at this time versus last year, but not crazy. Much higher than we were, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We've been at this interest rate really since mid 2022, peaking in October of 2023. I mean, the market came to a snail's pace at that time. It was seasonally adjusted, but we also had some high interest rates, and the market in October of 2023 was, not scary. It just was very, very quiet and very slow. All right, keep on rocking and rolling. All right, so record high prices plus high interest rates in the last decade. Affordability, especially for first-time home buyers, is getting squeezed. I get this question asked all the time. Is it the right time to buy right now? Sure, absolutely. With the caveat that you're going to own or live in that property for at least 3 to 5 years, preferably 5+ years. If you're going to do that, absolutely. I think it's a great time to buy. I think it's always a great time to buy if you're going to own that asset for, especially 5 years. Now, that's hard to predict. My first house that I ever bought was in Loveland, and we had a 5-year plan to be there. Just so happens we bought it at a time that the market was doing quite well. We did some sweat equity and we're like, let's get out of here, and sold the house, make a little bit of profit, hit the road and go and parlay it into something else. But our plan was 5 years. I think you should always go into a house or an investment or a property that's real estate with the timeline of minimum 5 years, but you could get away maybe with 3 to 4 years. But I think 5 years is kind of like that honey hole. I think 5 years, you pay down enough principal, market's probably appreciated enough, at least here in Northern Colorado. We don't go on these huge swings like Florida does. We did see a pretty decent hockey stick, but now if you do need to sell within that first year or two, when I was looking at all those homes that sold, and we're actually working with a client right now that just bought really about a year and a half ago, and they are potentially going to have to bring a check to closing. And there was a fix and flip. That's actually the next one. Don't do fix and flips. And my next piece of advice is also going to talk to sellers, but don't do fix and flips. I mean, there was multiple fix and flips that I was rifling through there that 1717 Lindenwood Drive absolutely got demolished. I think they bought it for 125. We walked that house when I think it should have sold for like 115 and needed a ton of work. And maybe they just did a lipstick flip. They ended up selling it for 135. And with the size of that house and the cost of materials and labor and all that kind of stuff, I'm guaranteed there were at least $30,000 to $50,000 in. Cost of selling a $1.3 million house is, over $60,000, when you take about 7 to 8%. So that fix and flip 100% lost money. And there was multiple examples of that. And this is where I kind of talk about to sellers, and this fix and flips and sellers. We get asked all the time on our listings, should we upgrade this? And should we update this? And my recommendation, and this is the same with going about for finishing your basement, redoing your kitchen. If you are going to finish the basement for yourself or remodel the kitchen for yourself, for your enjoyment, that you desire that, then great, go ahead and do it. If you're looking at it from a purely investment standpoint, probably not a great placement of your capital. Go put it in the S&P 500 and enjoy some 8% returns on that money. Guessing what people like, but the biggest thing is really not being able to control the cost of materials and or the labor. Now, if you're the labor or you are able to source very affordable, materials, then great, you can probably make some money on that. But generally, you're probably just going to be paying yourself a labor on the return of that. So give that project to somebody else, price your home accordingly. The things that I think you should focus on as a seller, the 3 Ds, deep clean, declutter, and depersonalize. And then from there, stage, clean, floors, and paint. Curb appeal could be on there. Absolutely curb appeal, sweat equity type stuff. But don't be putting big dollar investments on the renovation of your home prior to selling unless you control materials and or labor. All right, here's some X factors for us. Presidential race. Don't want to get political, don't care to get political, but I can tell you that I'm sure there are people who are going to sell their houses regardless of who wins. I've heard it on both sides, and move to Costa Rica. But that's going to have some impact on the market, whether it be slowing it down. Inflation is absolutely going to impact what the Federal Reserve does. They've hinted at 2 rate cuts, which then subsequently may impact mortgage rates. And a lot of those times, those mortgage rates, get baked in based off of the betting odds way above, and then the 10-year treasury and how that impacts everything. So interest rates are very dramatic on the market. At 8% in October of 2023, the market, now granted seasonally, was at a snail's pace, but it was dead. I mean, we had a listing that came on at the beginning of October. There was 6 other listings, and I was so happy to be the 7th and only listing that went under contract and then sold. Now we put a ton of marketing into it and felt like we priced it right and positioned the house well, but I think we had the right buyer. I love to toot my own horn, but I think we just had the right buyer to buy that house. But the market was dead. 7%, you kind of like where we're at right now, roughly. Like I said, you have these very discerning buyers that are just like, hey, you know what? We can be patient. Don't need to rush into anything. 6%, I would say there is still those discerning buyers, but then the move uppers are kind of more interested. First-time home buyers start to make sense a little bit. And then 5%, the floodgates just open. I mean, the market just goes freaking banana, anywhere between 5 to 5.5%. So some theories and strategies we've talked with a lot of our clients of is, hey, right now the market's, relatively slow as far as buyer demand. Not a terrible time to consider buying. If that was in your plan, trying to time the market is a little bit funky. Now, buy the house with the assumption that that rate is what you're going to have for the next 30 years, but there is relatively decent likelihood that at least gets back into the fives. I don't think necessarily we will ever see fours. I'm sure, and I'm hopeful that we don't ever see threes. That just means the economy is in the shits. So let's not see threes anymore. Fours is a super sexy number for a lot of people. Would be great for refinancing, but I think 5% to 5.5% is a healthy real estate market and a healthy investor market, healthy economy. Supply of new construction. Right now we're seeing a 9-month supply of new construction. There's a good amount of negotiations happening, but there's still, a good amount of desire for it. We're seeing, new developments pop up all over Fort Collins, Northern Colorado. And we're getting texts every day about incentives and rates and hey, bring your clients here. So new construction, while it's a very long tail and I would never want to be in development, we are seeing some of that inventory come onto the market and some negotiation happening. Again, I talked rental rates just briefly. We're seeing rental rates really pop up. We're seeing some of these rental rates of like your single family home in Fort Collins. If you find something under $2,000 for a single family home, even if it's an 800 square foot, 2-bed, 1-bathroom, I think you have found a steal of a deal. Rental rates are increasing. There are a good amount of, there's great demand out there, and we're going to see rental rates increase probably more dramatically as prices increased over the last 3 to 5 years. We're now going to start to see rental rates increase to shrink that gap between mortgage payments and rental rates to make mortgages and purchasing more attractive. It just is what it's going to be. So, all right. Any questions or anything like that? I don't see anything on the I don't see anything on the excuse me guys, on the chat. I was super excited about presenting this today. I think the market in Fort Collins is very healthy for both sellers. There's a good amount of buyers out there, and buyers. Like there are buyers that are able to negotiate and take a look at a home 2 or 3 times. Now we did lose a home, unfortunately, with a client that, we went back after a very significant price reduction from the seller. They actually had a signed counter going to be sent over to us. And at the 11th hour, a cash offer came in. And it was very much a correlation to its price versus value. And but we were able to look at the home 3 different times before making that offer, and made not a super aggressive offer, but we offered under list price about 3.5%, I think it was. And they were going to accept, but they just happened to get a cash offer at the 11th hour. So it's a very healthy market, much calmer. It's 4th of July. Hopefully you guys have a great 4th. It's a great time to go look at homes. If you are a buyer, reach out to us, give us a call, text, or email. Not necessarily myself this time, because we're going to go up to the cabin right after this, but my team would love to show you homes. It's a great opportunity. No one else is really looking. They're out going, having a good time, which is great, but you can sneak in there, get a great deal over these next few days while the rest of the buyers are out having a good time. But if you desire to go have a good time, be safe, drive safe, take care of yourself. Appreciate you guys watching. Go watch Izzy and Zach's video on favorite foods in Fort Collins. It's hilarious. Those two are quite funny together. I'm very grateful to have them on my team. We have a wonderful team at Sugo Real Estate Services. So appreciate you guys watching. And until next time, take care.